Have you ever experienced a moment that felt so precise, so perfectly timed, that it seemed orchestrated by something beyond logic? Something hidden, something watching? A thought flashes in your mind, and the very next moment, reality bends to reflect it. A name, a number, a symbol appears repeatedly in your environment, as if reality is echoing your internal world. Are these coincidences or coded signals from a deeper level of your own mind? The truth may be far stranger than fiction. For centuries, sages and mystics whispered of a hidden layer of existence, one that listens, responds, and even rearranges the fabric of reality itself. Today, quantum physicists are inching toward discoveries that echo these ancient claims, suggesting that reality is not fixed but malleable, and somehow our consciousness, especially the subconscious mind, plays a pivotal role in shaping it. You are about to uncover a forgotten truth, that your subconsciousness is not merely a passive backdrop, but an intelligent, active force, and it is speaking to you through reality shifts. From ancient Egyptian magicians invoking Heka, to bend time and space, to Vedic seers decoding the mind's hidden architecture, to modern-day experiments proving that observation alone can change physical outcomes, there has always been a mystery at the intersection of mind and matter. This video will unveil how your subconscious mind operates behind the scenes, how ancient civilizations understood its power, and how the phenomenon of quantum reality shifts may be the language it uses to communicate with you. We'll reveal how Hermetic teachings like as above, so below were never metaphorical. They were instructions for decoding the feedback loop between your internal state and the outer world. You'll understand the hidden signs your subconscious uses to signal alignment or misalignment with your true path. You'll see how déjà vu, repeating numbers, unexpected shifts in mood or outcome, are not just psychological glitches, but messages in motion, coming from a dimension where time, thought, and energy interweave. This is not just about theory. It's about giving you the map to read these signals, to interpret the shifts, and eventually to guide them consciously. This is the forgotten interface between ancient wisdom and quantum truth, a meeting point where mystical traditions and cutting-edge science both whisper the same startling idea. Reality is not solid. It's responsive, and your subconscious is its architect. So be warned. By the time this video ends, you may never see your experiences or your own mind the same way again. The strange moments that once seemed like glitches might just be messages, and your reality might be far more alive than you ever imagined. Let's begin by exposing the hidden intelligence behind your everyday reality. The silent architect within you, always watching, always shaping, always communicating. Beneath the surface of your conscious thoughts, beyond the reach of deliberate intention, lies a vast realm of unseen intelligence. This is the domain of the subconscious mind, not simply a storage house of memories and habits, but a dynamic field that molds the structure of your reality in real time. It operates in silence, yet nothing in your life escapes its influence. While your conscious awareness navigates the visible world, your subconscious is immersed in the invisible architecture of existence, quietly rearranging events, nudging circumstances, and aligning external outcomes with internal patterns. To understand this hidden force, one must abandon the notion that the mind ends at the skull. Ancient civilizations never accepted such limitations. In their view, the mind extended beyond the body, into the ethers, into the stars, into the very fabric of the cosmos. The subconscious was not a lesser mind. It was the true mind, the immortal mind, the part of you that knows without thinking, speaks without words, and acts without movement. The Egyptians, in their intricate spiritual cosmology, understood this well. They called it the Ka, the energetic double that exists parallel to the physical form. It was the Ka that received messages from the divine realms and transmitted them through symbols, dreams, and omens. The conscious mind might dismiss a recurring image as random, but the Egyptian initiate would recognize it as a deliberate signal from the Ka, a whisper from the unseen layers of the self. In Vedic philosophy, this subconscious intelligence was reflected in the concept of the Chit, the deeper layers of consciousness where impressions from all lifetimes are stored. These impressions, or samskaras, silently shape your behavior, desires, and even the circumstances you attract. The Vedic sages knew that by purifying and directing the Chit, One could alter not just personal destiny, but the very course of cosmic flow. The subconscious wasn't just a reflection of past experience. It was the seed from which future realities bloom. The Hermetic tradition, encoded in texts like the Emerald Tablet, expressed this truth in one phrase: as above, so below, as within, so without. This was not poetic metaphor, it was functional truth. What you hold in the inner sanctum of your subconscious is mirrored in the events of the outer world. The pattern of your thoughts becomes the pattern of your timeline. Your dominant emotional tones sculpt the environment around you, magnetizing people, opportunities, and even so-called coincidences that resonate with your internal frequency. But how do you know when your subconscious is trying to speak to you? It doesn't use language. It doesn't argue or explain. Instead, it manifests. It brings forth patterns, repetitions, distortions, and alignments. You begin to notice the same number appearing across unrelated contexts: license plates, phone numbers, clocks. A word or phrase echoes through multiple conversations, books, or media. People enter your life with uncanny timing. Circumstances shift abruptly after a moment of intense emotion or thought. These are not accidents. They are signals, coded expressions of subconscious intent made visible through quantum structure. You may feel a sudden unease walking into a room that others find perfectly normal, or experience an inexplicable sense of certainty about a choice you haven't yet made. These aren't gut instincts, they're deeper transmissions from the subconscious field, which perceives beyond the five senses. It speaks in symbols, synchrony, atmosphere. It rearranges timelines to give you glimpses of what lies beneath your current awareness. The subconscious doesn't ask questions. It gives answers through dreams, through shifts in mood, through the shape of the reality unfolding before you. The more you ignore these signals, the more distorted they become, manifesting as accidents, conflicts, repeated failures. But when you begin to recognize the signature of your subconscious in your daily experience, reality begins to clarify. The fog lifts, meaning emerges. Every moment becomes a message. You realize that life is not happening to you. It is happening from you. This is not philosophy. This is law. The subconscious mind is constantly interfacing with the quantum field, an infinite sea of probabilities, awaiting instruction. And instruction is not given through words. It's given through belief, repetition, emotional charge, and unconscious focus. Whatever your subconscious holds as true, the quantum field mirrors into reality with unyielding precision. This is why ancient initiates guarded their thoughts, emotions, and inner narratives so carefully. They understood that every belief held within the subconscious becomes a command issued to the universe. If you believe the world is hostile, your subconscious filters reality to reinforce that view, attracting encounters, shaping perceptions, and collapsing probabilities that fulfill the script. If you carry the imprint of unworthiness, the subconscious will engineer situations that validate that inner imprint, even when your conscious desires seek the opposite. But here is the paradox. The subconscious mind does not operate on logic. It operates on pattern. It is not persuaded by reason or goals. It is programmed through repetition and resonance. This is why affirmations spoken without belief fall flat. The conscious mind may recite new intentions, but the subconscious continues to project its deeper, older reality. To reprogram the subconscious is to reshape the lens through which the quantum field interprets your existence. But before reprogramming can begin, there must be awareness. You must learn to recognize when your subconscious is speaking. Signs include repetitive life patterns that seem to loop regardless of your efforts to change, emotional triggers that arise without obvious cause, dreams that carry symbolic weight or recur in archetypal forms, synchronicities that align with private thoughts or feelings, spontaneous insights that arrive without logical progression. These are not accidents. These are transmissions. In fact, reality itself is a mirror that does not lie. Every experience, from the mundane to the miraculous, is shaped by the architecture of your subconscious beliefs. You are constantly broadcasting frequencies into the quantum field through the subconscious mind, and the field responds not to what you want but to what you are at the deepest level. This is why ancient initiatory schools did not begin with manifesting techniques. They began with purification. The aspirant was taught to observe their thoughts, track their emotional patterns, and question the inner stories they carried. Only then could new realities be summoned with accuracy and stability. Because without clarity in the subconscious, manifestation becomes chaotic, inconsistent, and draining. What ancient mystics knew intuitively, quantum researchers are now beginning to observe. The act of observation collapses probability waves into outcomes, a phenomenon called the observer effect. But the true observer is not the thinking mind. It is the deeper self, the subconscious presence that constantly watches, evaluates, and interprets reality beneath the surface of thought. This is the hidden operator behind your life experiences. It is the ancient voice within you, shaping the world around you while you sleep, while you dream, while you think you are alone. But you are never alone. You are constantly in conversation with your reality. And the subconscious mind is your translator. So, if you've ever wondered why certain things repeat, why you attract certain experiences, why reality sometimes bends in strange ways when your emotions intensify, know this, it is not random. It is the signal. The message is clear. The subconscious is trying to communicate not through words, but through quantum echoes, through mirrored experiences, through symbolic resonance. And once you learn to understand this language, you no longer fear the unknown. You begin to work with it. You begin to reshape the narrative. You become a conscious participant in the great dialogue between mind and matter. Because reality is not fixed. Step behind the curtain of appearances, and reality begins to shift. It no longer resembles a stage of solid matter governed by strict laws, but a living sea of possibilities shaped by awareness itself. In the quantum realm, particles flicker in and out of existence. Outcomes remain undefined until observed. Distance becomes irrelevant. Time becomes fluid. Suddenly, the universe does not appear mechanical, it appears conscious. This is the frontier where science meets mysticism. And not by accident. The ancient world never separated consciousness from reality. It was understood that the two were woven together, one reflecting the other. From Egypt to India to Babylon, sages perceived the external world as a projection of internal states. And now, modern physics is tracing the same arc, toward a realization that consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. At the heart of this realization lies a strange and powerful phenomenon known as the observer effect. In quantum mechanics, particles behave like probabilities, waves of potential, until they are measured. The moment observation occurs, the wave collapses into a definite outcome. In other words, the act of observation alters the state of the system. Without observation, there is only uncertainty. With observation, a single version of reality crystallizes. But who or what is doing the observing? Many assume this is a passive act, performed by instruments or scientists in labs. But this is a surface interpretation. The deeper implication is that consciousness itself is the active agent. The presence of a sentient witness changes the fabric of reality. The observer is not separate from the experiment. It is entangled with it. The implications are profound. Your awareness does not just witness your life. It helps generate it. This aligns perfectly with what Hermetic teachings have maintained for thousands of years. According to these esoteric doctrines, the mind is not a byproduct of the brain. It is a universal force, capable of influencing reality at every level. The Kybalion, a key Hermetic text, teaches that the all is mind. Everything is mental. The material world is a projection of a deeper mental plane. In Hermetic science, the magician is not someone who casts spells in the traditional sense. The true magician is one who understands the relationship between inner thought and outer manifestation. The act of focused attention becomes a form of creative control. Just as the observer in quantum physics collapses probabilities into form, so too does the Hermetic initiate collapse intention into experience. There is another quantum mystery that brings us even closer to ancient wisdom: entanglement. Quantum entanglement is the phenomenon in which two particles, once connected, remain linked regardless of distance. Change the state of one, and the other responds instantly, even if separated by vast expanses of space. This appears to defy the speed of light and suggests that some hidden connection exists outside spacetime. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. It listens, and the subconscious is the whisper that shapes the world. But to the ancients, this was not spooky. It was sacred. In Vedic philosophy, there is the concept of Brahman, the unchanging, infinite field from which all things arise. Individual consciousness, Atman, is not separate from this field, but an expression of it. All beings are connected through this underlying reality. The mystics of the East spoke of Indra's net, a vast, cosmic lattice where every node reflects all others. This is a poetic vision of quantum entanglement described millennia before the birth of modern physics. In these systems of thought, all separation is illusion. What appears distant is truly near. What appears random is deeply connected. Your thoughts, your emotions, your very presence sends ripples into the collective field, and receives ripples in return. The world responds because it is not separate from you. It is you, encoded in symbolic form. Even Western mystics understood this principle. In the mystical branches of Kabbalah and Gnosticism, it was taught that the material world is a reflection of higher realms, a fractal mirror of divine consciousness. Events in the physical plane correspond to energies in the spiritual plane. This mirrors the quantum understanding that the visible world arises from invisible potentials. But perhaps the most startling convergence between ancient insight and modern science is the recognition of a cosmic field of information. In quantum theory, some physicists propose that the universe is saturated with a vast informational field, a kind of energetic substrate that records and transmits data across all space and time. This has been referred to as the zero-point field, the quantum vacuum, or even the Akashic field. According to this idea, everything that ever was or will be is encoded in this field, not as static records but as living patterns of potential. Now consider the ancient Sanskrit term Akasha. In Vedic cosmology, Akasha is the fifth element, the ether from which all forms emerge. It is not empty space, but the sacred substance of creation. The seers believed that every thought, action, and event was imprinted in the Akashic field, accessible to those who knew how to attune their consciousness. This was the origin of the Akashic records, a mystical concept describing a timeless library that contains the imprint of all souls, all lifetimes, and all choices. The similarities with quantum information theory are striking. In both cases, we find the idea that the universe is not just made of energy and matter, it is made of information, stored and transmitted across a field that transcends time. When mystics accessed the Akasha, they were not imagining. They were tuning into a level of consciousness where all data exists simultaneously. In quantum language, they were interfacing with the field of non-localized probabilities, plucking out patterns and forming meaning from the noise. Modern thinkers like Ervin Laszlo have expanded on this idea, suggesting that the Akashic field is the missing link between consciousness and cosmos. It explains why entangled particles behave as if connected. It explains how thoughts can influence matter. It provides a bridge between inner experience and outer result. But ancient teachings already carried this knowing. They taught that the subconscious mind is not limited to personal memory. It is plugged into this vast informational web. Every dream, every intuition, every sudden insight or symbolic event is a glimpse into this deeper field. Your subconscious acts as the conduit between your individual self and the universal intelligence encoded in the Akasha. This is why dreams sometimes contain knowledge you've never consciously encountered. This is why meditative states reveal solutions that logic could not produce. The subconscious is not just a storage space. It is an antenna, receiving from and transmitting to the quantum field in real time. And it is through this interface that reality shifts begin to happen. When your subconscious aligns with a specific pattern, through belief, emotion, or focused attention, it begins to resonate with the corresponding frequency in the quantum field. This creates what some have called a collapse of the wave function, a narrowing of probabilities into a chosen reality. You are not selecting from a static menu of outcomes. You are sculpting reality from the inside out, based on the vibrational patterns encoded in your subconscious. This is not fantasy. This is the foundation of every sacred science. The Hermetic magicians, the Vedic yogis, the Egyptian priesthood, they all trained to master this interface. They learned how to quiet the conscious mind, purify the subconscious, and attune their inner field to the desired outcome. They used symbols, rituals, mantras, and sacred geometry not as superstition, but as tools to align inner frequency with outer result. Now, quantum science is confirming what they always knew, that observation alters reality, that everything is connected beyond space and time, that consciousness is not a side effect of matter, but its source. You are not here to observe passively. You are here to create actively, and your subconscious is the bridge. It is the link between the ancient and the modern, the inner and the outer, the known and the unknowable. So when reality begins to ripple, when synchronicities multiply, when the atmosphere shifts without cause, understand that this is not coincidence. This is convergence. It is the meeting point between quantum truth and ancient wisdom. It is the revelation that you are not separate from the universe. You are its voice. The fabric of your daily experience is not as solid as it appears. Beneath its surface hums a current of strange alignments, flickers of unreality, and moments when the world seems to tilt sideways. You glance at a clock, and it shows the same repeating numbers you've seen all week. You think of someone, and they suddenly contact you. A song plays with lyrics that answer a question you never spoke aloud. These are not accidents. These are transmissions. Your subconscious is always speaking, always signaling, and it does so through the very field of quantum reality in which you are embedded. The shifts you encounter, the coincidences that seem to stack impossibly high, are not just random anomalies. They are communication channels, activated by resonance, attention, and energetic alignment. These reality shifts, though often subtle, are not passive phenomena. They are signs, echoes, symbols rising from the deep, tracing the invisible architecture of your consciousness. The more you attune to them, the more they amplify. And when you begin to see the hidden order behind them, your perception itself becomes a key, a device that unlocks the deeper codes of reality. But to recognize these transmissions, you must know their forms. Reality shifts often arrive in the language of synchronicity, events that appear meaningfully related despite having no causal connection. Carl Jung coined the term, but the phenomenon predates modern psychology by millennia. A synchronicity feels charged. It arrests your attention. It delivers a message without words. And its power lies not in logic, but in symbolic resonance. These moments reflect the subconscious mind's language. Symbolic, nonlinear, and layered with archetypal meaning. Another common expression of reality shift is déjà vu, the uncanny sense that a current experience has already happened. This phenomenon is often brushed off as a neurological glitch, but many ancient traditions viewed it as a glimpse into alternate timelines or multidimensional echoes. In the context of quantum reality, déjà vu may represent the bleed-through of parallel outcomes, brief overlaps where your consciousness synchronizes with another version of your path. Then there are the mandala moments, repeating patterns, numbers, shapes, or symbols that seem to follow you. The same number appears on receipts, clocks, and addresses. The same animal crosses your path again and again. These are not decorative details. They are energetic indicators, emerging in response to your inner frequency. In esoteric traditions, these symbols are known as eidolons, projected forms that mirror the state of the soul. The ancient Egyptian priesthood had a name for these reality interactions: Heka. Heka was not merely magic, as later cultures mistranslated it. It referred to the original creative force, an intelligent energy that bridges thought and manifestation. Through Heka, the Egyptians believed the gods communicated with humanity, not through language, but through pattern, resonance, and energetic form. Heka was the art of attunement, an understanding that reality bends in accordance with the vibrational codes of the subconscious. In this system, symbols were alive. Numbers were portals. Names held power. Every event, no matter how minor, could be read as an intentional movement within the divine fabric. And the individual who learned to interpret these movements gained access to deeper layers of knowledge. Modern quantum theory is beginning to validate this ancient view. At the subatomic level, reality does not move in straight lines. It moves in probabilities, swirls, loops, and entanglements. Time is not linear. Cause and effect are not fixed. The system responds to input, even retroactively. Events are interconnected in ways that defy classical logic, yet make perfect sense to the subconscious mind. This is why a strong emotional thought can precipitate a rapid change in your environment. This is why intention, even unspoken, can lead to a cascade of uncanny events. Your subconscious is connected to a quantum field that obeys laws far beyond Newtonian physics. And when the subconscious emits a signal, through longing, fear, desire, or spiritual yearning, that signal ripples outward into the unified field, drawing into form the symbols and patterns that reflect it. In indigenous cultures around the world, this idea is preserved in the concept of dreamtime or spirit reality. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of a world behind the world, a vibrational realm where ancestors, archetypes, and energies reside. When a person sees a sign in waking life, an animal behaving strangely, a storm with odd timing, a word heard in the wind, it is interpreted as a message from the field, not mere weather or chance. The same applies in Andean shamanic traditions, where reality is seen as a living web and all occurrences are read symbolically. This mode of perception is not superstition, it is a different cognitive language, one that modern minds have suppressed in favor of linear thought. But the subconscious never stopped speaking this language. It still crafts the world symbolically. It still shapes your experience based on unseen emotional and energetic patterns. And reality, in turn, bends to match the shape of your mind. That is the essence of quantum communication. Reality is not speaking to you in words, it is speaking in alignment. A shift in your subconscious creates a shift in the field. That shift returns to you through patterns, echoes, and signs. You are not observing a world separate from yourself. You are interacting with a mirror that morphs in response to your internal state. This is why, during times of inner transformation, your external life often becomes chaotic. Old friends vanish. Random events interrupt your plans. Strange synchronicities accelerate. These are not disturbances. These are reflections of energetic recalibration. The subconscious is shedding outdated alignments and attracting new ones, and the quantum field is reordering itself accordingly. But beware, the subconscious does not distinguish between what is wanted and what is feared. It responds only to intensity. If fear dominates your subconscious, the field will reflect that. If unresolved trauma colors your emotional field, it will echo through your external experience. Reality shifts are not always pleasant, but they are always instructive. Every ripple in your experience is a clue to the hidden blueprint your subconscious is projecting. To navigate this landscape with wisdom, you must become aware of your patterns. Which symbols appear frequently in your life? Which emotions dominate your subconscious terrain? Which desires are emerging unfulfilled? Which thoughts repeat in the quiet? These are the threads that tie you to specific quantum outcomes. And as long as they remain unconscious, they will generate loops, repeating realities with slight variations until they are integrated. In the ancient mystery schools, students were trained to notice reality shifts with precision. They practiced heightened states of awareness, ritual observation, and symbolic decoding. Every element of daily life became part of a vast conversation between self and universe. A crow's cry was not a random event. It was an echo from the field. A candle flickering at a certain moment was not mere physics, it was a signal. The mind trained in this way does not seek explanations. It seeks meanings. For modern practitioners of quantum consciousness, this path remains open. You can learn to identify reality shifts as messages. You can become a conscious interpreter of your own subconscious transmissions. And you can begin to steer the field by shifting your internal frequency. Start with awareness. Notice when reality seems to glitch, when time warps, when coincidences stack, when unlikely events cluster together. Do not explain them away. Track them. Record them. Reflect on the emotional or spiritual state you were in when they occurred. What were you thinking? Feeling? Seeking? These moments are not fragments. They are feedback loops. As you collect more of them, patterns will emerge. Certain numbers may follow you. Certain words may recur. Certain emotional states may produce external signs. These are your reality codes. They are unique to you, and once recognized, they form a personal lexicon for decoding the language of the subconscious through the quantum field. Ultimately, reality shifts are not interruptions to your path. They are the path. Each one is a flash of contact between inner and outer worlds, a flicker of the veil, a whisper from the deeper mind that shapes your experience. The more you listen, the louder it becomes. The more you honor it, the more precise it grows, until finally you no longer wander through life guessing. You walk through a living dialogue, guided by the synchronistic intelligence of your own field. You are not a bystander in this universe. Reality speaks in symbols. These symbols are not static. They shift, evolve, and adapt to your consciousness. They are fluid reflections of your inner world projected outward. Each synchronicity, each déjà vu, each repeating pattern is a message in a language older than words. The key is not to analyze these moments but to feel them, to sense the vibration they carry, to unlock their meaning through resonance rather than logic. To decode the language of the subconscious as it speaks through quantum shifts, you must begin with presence. Not the mechanical kind of awareness, but the sacred attentiveness practiced by those who walked the inner path in ancient temples and mystery schools. You must become the observer of your own signal, a listener to the whispers behind events. In the ancient world, decoding was not interpretation. It was communion. The symbols were not puzzles to solve but energies to engage. A crow in flight was not just a bird, it was a messenger of threshold. A broken object was not an accident. It was a sign of transmutation. The ancients lived in a world where every occurrence had dimension. Nothing was flat. Nothing was meaningless. The first rule of decoding the messages: the outer mirrors the inner. This is the ancient Hermetic axiom: as above, so below. As within, so without. What occurs in the quantum field of your life reflects the state of your subconscious architecture. The patterns around you do not randomly assemble. They are shaped by emotion, belief, archetype, and attention. This means that a repeating number, an animal encounter, a dream fragment that appears in waking life, these are all mirrors. The question is not, what does this mean? The question is, what in me is this reflecting? To decode reality, you must cultivate symbolic sight. This is not about memorizing meanings from a book. It is about discovering your own lexicon. A symbol has general meaning, yes, but it also has personal charge. A wolf might represent power for one person and fear for another. A red light might be a warning for one and a call to action for another. The subconscious uses your emotional associations to build its messages. You must learn to read your own language. The ancient Egyptian priests practiced a method known as soretic transmutation, the act of translating outer signs into inner transformation. When something strange occurred, they didn't ask, "Why did this happen?" They asked, "What part of my soul has summoned this event?" Their journals were not logs of daily events, but maps of internal symbols. Every pattern was noted. Every shift was tracked. Over time, these records revealed the thread of the soul's unfolding. You can adopt a similar method. Keep a synchronicity journal. Record each moment that feels charged, odd, out of place, or symbolically rich. Include the time, your emotional state, the circumstances surrounding it, and any symbols that appeared. Don't try to analyze it immediately. Let the pattern unfold over time. As you continue this practice, you'll begin to notice that certain signs appear in clusters. Certain symbols show up when you're in transition. Certain numbers follow you during key decisions. This is the subconscious speaking through the quantum field, again and again until you hear it clearly. Symbols also emerge through dreams, and when those dream fragments echo into waking life, the communication is doubled. For instance, you dream of a specific symbol, a gate, a snake, a storm, and days later, you encounter that same symbol in waking reality. This is a crossover point. Your subconscious is not merely whispering, it is amplifying. The veil has thinned, and you are being drawn into a deeper state of alignment. Ancient mystery schools taught techniques for entering this state consciously. Students were trained to invoke symbolic consciousness through ritual, meditation, and focused intention. They would enter temples in altered states, asking for guidance, not in words but in signs. They would watch the flames of oil lamps, the ripples in water bowls, the flight of birds, anything that could reflect the subtle signals of the deeper self. In these schools, it was understood that reality is a responsive matrix, that the world responds to the tone of your being. If you asked a question with sincerity, the world would answer, not with a voice but with a sign. It was the initiate's task to remain open enough to receive it, and wise enough to recognize it when it came. This state of receptivity is crucial. The subconscious does not respond to pressure. It responds to openness. If you demand a sign, you block it. If you allow for a sign, you create space for it. The same applies to interpreting symbols. If you force meaning onto a sign, you distort it. But if you allow the symbol to speak, if you ask inwardly, "What is this trying to show me?" you create an inner resonance that clarifies the message. You are the signal and the receiver, the shift and the source, and reality is listening. Modern approaches echo these ancient techniques. Carl Jung spoke of active imagination, a practice of dialoguing with subconscious symbols through inner vision. In this practice, you sit with a symbol, whether from a dream, a synchronicity, or a spontaneous image, and you let it speak. You imagine it as an entity, a guide, a reflection. You ask it questions, receive impressions, and allow its form to shift as needed. Through this process, the subconscious reveals layers of meaning, unlocking emotional codes that linear thinking cannot reach. Another modern method is symbolic meditation. Choose a symbol that appears repeatedly in your life, a number, an animal, a shape, and meditate on it. Don't try to understand it. Just focus your awareness on it and allow images, memories, emotions, and thoughts to rise. These are the threads of meaning. The subconscious does not speak linearly, it speaks through webbing. Trust the web. Over time, you'll find that certain symbols become gateways. They trigger states of heightened awareness. They anchor your consciousness to deeper truths. They become your personal sigils, keys to states of power and clarity. When you see them in the world, you'll feel the shift. The field tightens. Time slows. You enter the corridor between dimensions. These are the reality messages, transmissions from the hidden world to the waking one. But even with symbols, even with patterns and signs, your greatest decoder is intuition. Intuition is not emotion. It is not impulse. It is not thinking. It is direct knowing, an awareness that arises without process. It is the subconscious speaking cleanly, unfiltered by mental noise. When a synchronicity occurs and you feel a deep knowing, a pull, a shift in your inner field, that is the message. It may not come with explanation, but it comes with truth. To strengthen your intuition, you must build silence into your life. Stillness. Pauses. In the noise of constant thought, intuition cannot be heard. In the stillness of presence, it becomes thunder. Practices like meditation, breath work, and focused attention clear the static. They widen the channel. They allow the messages from below to rise up and be known. And once the messages begin to flow, a new form of communication emerges. You no longer feel separate from the symbols. You become part of the feedback loop. You send intention into the field and receive answers in signs. You tune your emotional frequency and the world bends around it. You ask through presence, and the quantum responds with form. At this point, reality becomes a dialogue. The veil is pierced, but this dialogue is not for entertainment. It is for evolution. Each message, each shift, each sign carries not just information, but transformation. They are not just telling you something. They are shaping you, aligning you, reconfiguring your field. Each decoded symbol unlocks a new strand of your being. And as more strands are unlocked, you begin to remember who you truly are. A co-creator within the quantum matrix, an architect of timelines, a node of consciousness embedded in a living universe. You do not read reality like a book. You speak to it. You listen through presence. You answer through action. And as you do, the illusion of randomness collapses. What remains is pattern. Meaning, dialogue, a dance between inner and outer, seen and unseen, form and formless. The language of the subconscious is no longer hidden. It is the rhythm of your life. It is the vibration beneath your thoughts. It is the shimmer in the corner of your eye when reality shifts again, and the message arrives. Not in words, but in truth. There comes a moment when the signs become more than whispers, when synchronicity is no longer a fluke, but a language. When the subtle rearrangement of your reality is no longer passive communication, but an invitation. That invitation is to co-create, to become not just the receiver of messages, but the shaper of the matrix itself. The ancient initiates understood that the subconscious is not a reservoir of memories and impulses. It is the architect of experience. It is the builder behind the curtain, the sculptor of the dream. What you impress upon it, through emotion, belief, and symbolic intention, translates into matter, time, and space. This is not poetry. This is law. It is the secret law behind manifestation, behind magic, behind miracles. And it is encoded in every ancient system of wisdom known to this earth. In Egypt, the priests of the inner temples were taught the art of Sia, the divine faculty of consciousness that directs reality. They did not see themselves as bound by cause and effect. They were trained to influence the causal realm directly, through their inner vision, through trance, through ritualized thought. They understood that what one holds within the frequency of their focus becomes the command to the quantum field. A silent order issued to the architecture of the universe. In Vedic traditions, this same principle was embedded in the practice of sankalpa, a sacred intention formulated not from the ego, but from the depth of the soul. It was said that when sankalpa is aligned, reality obeys, not through force but through resonance, because the subconscious is a portal, and what flows through it carries weight beyond the physical. The Hermetic Magi called this power theurgy, the ability to create real change in the material world by aligning with divine patterns. They taught that the cosmos is mental, that all things emerge from mind. Not your personal mind, but the mind, the universal consciousness that your subconscious is connected to at all times. When you impress this field with symbolic clarity and emotional charge, it responds. Today, science inches toward these ancient truths. In quantum physics, experiments show that intention, when focused, has measurable effects on the outcome of reality. The famous double-slit experiment reveals that the act of observation changes what is observed. But what is observation? At its core, it is focused consciousness. It is attention imbued with belief. When researchers conducted intention experiments, where large groups focused on specific outcomes, the quantum field responded. Changes in random number generators, shifts in physical systems, even alterations in the structure of water. These are not myths. These are documented phenomena that validate what the mystics always knew. The world is not solid. It is suggestible, but suggestion alone is not enough. The suggestion must come from a coherent being, one whose inner energies are aligned. Thought without emotion is hollow. Emotion without clarity is chaotic. The subconscious listens to harmony, to signals that are fused with certainty and depth. And this is where ancient practice becomes essential. Meditation is the doorway, not meditation as relaxation but as programming. When you enter the silent space between thoughts, you touch the root code of your reality. In this space, you are able to plant seeds not just through words, but through felt presence. Visualize not as fantasy, but as reality felt before it is seen. This is how the subconscious accepts the instruction. Through the language of feeling. Ancient schools used this power with precision. The Eleusinian initiates were guided into visionary states where they encountered archetypes. Symbolic patterns so potent they would restructure the initiate's very psyche. These archetypes, once encountered and absorbed, would begin to shape the outer life of the student. It was transformation by exposure, not just to knowledge but to frequency. You too are surrounded by archetypes. When you wish to create consciously, you must select them carefully. Choose the archetype of the sage, and your subconscious will begin organizing experience to reflect wisdom. Choose the archetype of the alchemist, and you will be drawn into cycles of transmutation. Choose the archetype of the healer, and your field will begin to mend and regenerate. These are not abstract concepts. They are blueprints for living energy, and your subconscious responds to them like keys to a hidden vault. To begin working with this, craft a personal practice of intentional encoding. Each morning, enter stillness. Connect with your breath. Then, bring to mind a clear intention. Not a desire, but a state. Instead of, I want wealth, tune into, I am the embodiment of prosperous flow. Instead of, I want love, align with, I am the radiant field of divine connection. Feel the state. Speak it inwardly. Visualize scenes that reflect it. Let emotion surge. Let the subconscious receive. Then release. This step is vital. The subconscious does not operate through grasping. It requires trust. Like a planted seed, your instruction must be buried in the soil of surrender. Detach from when or how the change will appear. Your only task is to remain aligned with the state. Let reality respond on its own terms. Over time, you will see the results. People will shift. Opportunities will flow. The symbols in your life will adjust. But more importantly, you will notice a change in the texture of your consciousness. You will feel as though you are living from a deeper layer. This is the merging of conscious and subconscious. This is coherence. And coherence is magnetic. The subconscious also responds to ritual. Not necessarily religious acts, but repeated symbolic gestures that carry emotional charge. Lighting a candle with intention. Placing a specific object on your desk. Wearing a color that aligns with a state of being. These are not superstitions. They are anchors, physical cues that reinforce subconscious signals. The more you imbue your environment with symbolic meaning, the more your subconscious recognizes itself in your reality. And when this happens, the field begins to stabilize. You begin to feel the quantum field around you bending into order. You speak inwardly, and something listens. You act outwardly, and something responds. You become the priest, the scientist, the magician merged into one. Ancient traditions taught that the ultimate goal was not to manifest things, but to become the kind of being from which manifestation is natural. Not to chase power, but to become aligned with Source so deeply that power flows as a byproduct. This is the secret behind manifestation. It is not about control. It is about resonance. When you resonate with a state of clarity, of gratitude, of generosity, of truth, you activate frequencies in the field that must return to you in mirrored form. The quantum field is a mirror of state, and your subconscious is the sculptor of state. Direct it with sacredness, not force, with reverence, not demand. One of the final practices to consider is the act of conscious review. Before sleep, scan your day, not with judgment, but with symbolic vision. Where did reality mirror your thoughts? Where did signs appear? Where did you feel out of alignment? Where did you feel powerful? Acknowledge these moments. Let your subconscious register them. This nightly reflection solidifies the dialogue between your conscious and subconscious minds. It allows for daily recalibration. And so, reality becomes a workshop, temple, a school of mirrors. Every shift, every coincidence, every subtle turn becomes a lesson, and you begin to speak the language of creation fluently. You no longer wait for reality to change. You change within and reality follows. Not always instantly, but always faithfully. For this is the hidden truth. The quantum field does not delay because it is slow. It delays to align all aspects of your being. If you are in conflict, if part of you wants and part of you fears, the field responds with mixed signals. But when you become singular in state, when you unite thought, emotion, and subconscious clarity, the world becomes a seamless reflection. This is conscious creation, not a game, not a trick, but the true art of becoming a living signal to the universe, an active participant in the dance of the unseen. And as you master this, reality no longer surprises you, because you are no longer at its mercy. You are shaping it. You are speaking it into form. You are commanding it through the sacred tones of your own being. And in this state, miracles are not miracles, they are inevitable. There comes a moment, quiet, unannounced, When the veil between the worlds becomes thinner than silk, you feel it not with your senses, but with your being. Reality breathes differently. Time curves. Events unfold in strange harmonies. And something within you whispers, not with words, but with knowing. It is your subconscious, no longer a passive passenger, but a conscious architect, communing with the quantum field in symbols, frequencies, and invisible gestures. You are not alone. You are not imagining it. You are awakening. The world around you is not fixed. It is fluent. Every shift in thought, every pulse of emotion, every silent belief you carry, ripples outward into the quantum lattice that composes your experience. The ancient adepts knew this. The mystery schools trained initiates not just to observe the universe, but to speak with it. Not in language, but in alignment. In this sacred dialogue, your subconscious is both the interpreter and the transmitter. It has always been trying to reach you. Every synchronicity that tugged at your attention. Every moment of déjà vu that lingered like a forgotten memory. Every coincidence too perfect to be random. These were not anomalies. They were messages, encoded signals from the deeper realms of self, attempting to guide your awareness toward remembrance. Not the kind of remembrance written in books, but the inner remembering of what you are and what you were always meant to do, co-create. Now you know. Now you've seen the architecture. The subconscious is not beneath your waking mind. It is beyond it. It is the doorway between your personal story and the infinite. And that doorway has always been open. You simply needed the map. You needed to remember the forgotten language, the one spoken in patterns, dreams, numbers, intuition, and invisible connections. To maintain this dialogue is not difficult. It does not require force or rituals lost to time. It requires presence, awareness, reverence. The same way one listens to the wind to hear its message. The same way one watches the fire to see its dance. It is the art of subtle listening, of recognizing that the outer world is a projection, not a prison, and that the deeper you go into your own inner space, the clearer the outer reality becomes. But this clarity comes with responsibility. Now that you know your subconscious is shaping your world, every thought becomes sacred. Every emotion becomes a signal. Every belief becomes a tool or a trap. The universe no longer responds to what you say. It responds to what you resonate. And resonance cannot be faked. You either vibrate with coherence, or you echo with confusion. The choice is always yours. This is why ancient mystics warned of misalignment. Why they stressed purity not as moral perfection but as energetic integrity. Your subconscious is a divine mechanism. It listens to your truth, not your surface. It responds to what is deeply held. To maintain a clear dialogue, your inner world must be ordered. Your thoughts must align with your emotions. Your desires must align with your actions. Your vision must align with your state of being. When these are in harmony, you become a transmitter of truth. The field listens. The reality around you bends. The shift becomes constant. This is how you begin to live from the inside out. Not reacting to the world, but shaping it. Not following outcomes, but initiating them. Not waiting for signs, but becoming the signal. This is mastery. Not in domination, but in union. In recognizing that reality is not separate from you. It is an extension of you. And your subconscious is the sculptor. The dialogue deepens when you listen with humility. When you watch your dreams not as random stories, but as messages. When you track the patterns in your life and follow the threads that connect events across time. When you honor your intuition, even when logic protests. This is how the language of the subconscious becomes fluent. And through it, your connection to the quantum field becomes tangible. Because in the end, there is no division. The subconscious is not your mind's basement. It is your soul's messenger. It stands between you and the infinite, translating impulses from the source into symbols your waking mind can grasp. When you ignore it, you live in confusion. When you fear it, you live in conflict. But when you trust it, when you work with it, you live in harmony with the pulse of the cosmos itself. This is why the ancient maxim "know thyself" was carved into the walls of sacred temples. not as philosophical advice but as quantum instruction. To know yourself is to access the blueprint. To know your subconscious is to hold the lever that moves the universe. The path ahead is not complicated, though it is sacred. Start small. Begin by watching the signals. Journal your dreams. Note the signs. Speak your intentions with care. Enter stillness often. Create a space within yourself that welcomes communication. The subconscious loves repetition, symbolism, and emotion. Use them wisely. Infuse your rituals with meaning. Speak not to the heavens, but from your center. The field hears everything, and when reality begins to shift, acknowledge it. Gratitude is the accelerator. Recognition strengthens the circuit. The more you notice the conversation, the clearer it becomes. Life stops being random. Events begin to synchronize. People arrive as if summoned. Doors open that logic could never predict. This is not superstition. This is alignment. Understand that your journey is not to escape the world, but to transform it through your awareness. You are not here to be subject to chaos. You are here to remember the codes. And now you have seen the whispers of quantum law echo in your life. You have felt the voice of the subconscious press against the fabric of waking thought. You have touched the sacred pattern that bridges the ancient and the modern, the inner and the outer, the known and the ineffable. And this is only the beginning. You are now part of a lineage, not of blood, but of awareness. A silent brotherhood and sisterhood of souls who see through the illusion, who know that the world is not what it seems, who understand that everything speaks, that every particle listens, that consciousness is not trapped inside a brain, but scattered across space, linked by intention, and steered by those who remember how to listen. The quantum field is not far away. It is here. It is now. It is responsive to thought, to feeling, to symbolic gesture. And your subconscious is the key. Not someday. Not when you're perfect. Now. So what now? Now you begin. You begin to treat every inner state as a signal. You begin to treat every emotion as a broadcast. You begin to treat every reality shift not as anomaly, but as conversation. You are the sender and the receiver. You are the frequency and the form. And the reality around you is the echo. The invitation is open. Keep the dialogue alive. Begin every day not in reaction, but in command, in presence, in listening. Speak to the field through the symbols of truth. Receive its response through the language of life. You were never meant to live in silence. You were meant to awaken to the code, to interpret the signs, to sculpt reality from the unseen. This is not the end of the story. This is the activation of a deeper one. You've been warned not in fear, but in awareness. Your subconscious is communicating. Reality is listening. And now so are you.